All right, Derf Reklaw. Yeah. Thank you. 1672 is a lot of years. That's right. Drums always kind of open your mind up and help you relax before we do any discussion. So we always like to bring the drums with us because it's part of our culture and tradition that whatever we do it with drums. So we just kind of, before we start having our little discussion, we're gonna just pay a little homage to the ancestors, those that have come before us, that make this wonderful moment we're about to experience possible. And so I want you to relax and enjoy. This is Derf Reklaw, and I'm JJ Kabasa, and this is how we do it, okay?
All right, I'm ready.
Enjoy a little thread. Okay, now we can open the door a little bit. We want to talk about community. That's going to be our Friday discussion, and we're going to kind of open the door on it. But we need a definition of what community is before we get started. A community is a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. Okay, with that in mind, everybody in this room kind of all look alike. So we have a common thing. This would be our village day. Community is village. And that's how we take that. And in your community, this time here is very important because this is your root time. This is the time you are taking root in your community or your village. And community means having experiences with people in your class that you will recognize and remember many years after you have come. This time is important because you are growing very important roots. But now just to broaden our community conversation, because this is an important year. This year is 2019. And I don't know if you've been talking about it at Marcus Garvey School, but in 1619, this is when Africans first started coming to the country as enslaved people, was in 1619. So, can someone tell me, how many years is a generation? Yes?
100?
No, a generation is not 100 years.
400?
No, a generation. How long is a generation? Think for a moment.
Like 3,000?
No, that's too much.
1,000?
No. A generation is 20 years. Every 20 years, you get a different generation. So, if we've been here since 1619, and this is 2019, that's 400 years. How many generations is that?
Oh, 20.
That's right, 20 generations. And there's no other people in the country that can claim that. That your people been here from the very beginning of the formation of this country. And that's very important to note, because we are honoring those 20 generations that have come before us. So y'all would represent like the 21st generation, because y'all not 18. If you were 18, you would be a part of that great 20th generation.
And see, like a generation is like from parent to child, from child to child. That's kind of what marks a generation. You know, like, okay, I'm a great-grandfather, so that's what, 4 generations, because I got a great-grandchild, a grandchild, and I have a child in me. You know, so that's 4 generations.
4 living generations.
Yeah, for my family. Yeah, so that's what really a generation really boils down to. Your parents are from their generation, you know, and your grandparents are from the generation before your parents. So that brings us down as a family. So you see how we mark ourselves as people, you know, because we're the same. You know, no matter, you know, what happens, we still have the same type of mentality that we were born with and we want to be about, you know. So that's why generations are important, so you can see the progress that you're kind of making with your family.
So for the 20 generations of Africans that have been in this country, the first 250 years, your ancestors worked for free. They made no money. They did absolutely all of the work it took to build this nation. And by their labor, they made it rich. Because if you work somebody from can't see in the morning to can't see at night, you're going to make them some wealth. Because you are being worked to death, literally, for free. And for 250 years, that's a long time. So after 1865, when there was a war fought over you and you got your freedom, so to speak, then there was 100 years from 1865 to 1965, 100 years of terrorism, where you had the Klan and you had people trying to terrorize African people because they did not want to give them the justice that they were due. And then from 1965, we had different kind of wars on our community. We were plagued with drugs and we were plagued with just very violent communities, because America has a very violent history. So the 20 generations that our folks went through is very important to this moment here, because through all of the violent nature of the system, we still seem to have survived in spite of. So a community is where you're growing, it's where you're developing. And then it's a very important fact that you're not really in a public school, because public schools don't really cater to the special needs that African American youth have, which is to know their story. See, if you don't know your story, you can't really go forward. And the reason this school is very important is because it gives you power. Because at one time in this country, education for your faces was against the law. They was not allowing us, our children, to read or write at one time in this country. You have to imagine that there were laws in place to keep you from reading and writing. When in fact, your ancestors, in a bigger picture still, invented writing. That came from the Nile Valley civilizations in what we call Egypt and Kemet, those places where writing was developed. But here, we couldn't read or write. So it was important that you know what your ancestors went through. So in our little community, in our little village, it's incumbent upon you to exceed to the highest level and to understand your story so nobody can tell you about your story. You study your story. This is where you bond and get your roots on what direction you're going to go in, what place you want to take within the 20 generations that have come before you, because there's much work to be done. So this time here is our time to understand our place in the bigger picture of how we got here and how we arrived here in our little village called Marcus Garvey School. Marcus Garvey was a very important individual. He was so powerful, his organization was so great, and it was all African. Up ye mighty people, accomplish what you will. Marcus Garvey was so powerful, they put the first FBI director on his case, J. Edgar Hoover. And J. Edgar Hoover's job was to stop this powerful black organization from organizing black people and empowering them. This is why this school is so very important. Marcus Garvey had a saying that he would end after all of his dynamic speeches, and he would say, "One love," at the end of all of his speeches, because he knows the power of that and what's in that. So the fact that you're here in this school getting a specialized education, one that's more in accordance with understanding your story, giving you a chance to conceptualize how we got here. 20 generations survived here in this place. So your job is to take what other generations were denied, which is this education, because knowledge is power. And it can turn you into something mighty. We've had geniuses that have made America, that have did pivotal things in America. Benjamin Banneker, very important black man. Benjamin Banneker, he gave us not only the first striking clock in America, he gave us the first farmer's almanac to show these people where the moon was at and when you're supposed to plant and harvest your food. He got a little room over at the White House, but he was a genius. Much like George Washington Carver, who was a genius. So you can look back on your story and find greatness in that. In this very important little community that y'all share together and gonna come to remember each other. I want you to hear a sound real quick. I want you to hear a sound from some of the oldest people that was maybe our first community. Derf, tell them about the Hindi Hood.
Okay. There's a people called the Twa people. And the Twa people are the oldest people that have been on this planet, and they're still here. The French call them pygmies, and they are short people that are not no taller than that. And they came up with the first everything, you know, the first farming, the first things of the land and all that. They came up with the first religion, which was called the hero code, where they said the sun is up here, the water's over there, the food is that, that's it. And they went from that type of thing. And some of them eat one day a year. They was that strong of a people that they would eat one day out of the year. And they were that strong of a people. They have an instrument called a Hindi hood, which they make themselves. I had one, but it got destroyed. So I used this bottle to get some of the sounds out of the Hindi hood people. And I'm going to do like a little medley of Hindi hood sounds that I have gotten out of this bottle that's close to the sound of the Hindi hood, which come from the Twa people that the French was called pygmy. It's a record called The Pygmies of the Ituri Forest. And in that record they would dealing with universal oneness of rhythm and sound. And it was some of the songs they were singing was just some beautiful singing, and it was just really based on the sound. So I'm going to do something with some of the things they did of the ones from the Ituri Forest. Responded. I've been waiting. And you know, we used to be roommates, but he knows who the champ is. But he's a good guy. He's a good guy. So that was from the Hindi people, with the Twa people that the French call pygmies. And that's some of the people when they came to enslave some of the people from the continent, they was not taking the pygmies. And they was not taking the ones who was called the Rubangi, who would put plates in their lips. So when they came and saw this out, we don't want them eating. So they saved their tribes by being the way that they were, and still was be able to be beautiful and keep the stuff. So that's some significant things that need to be in the history book, so people could understand some of the things that went down before they even got the first one of us over here. You know, so that's kind of important. So that's, my story for the Hindu people.
So, do you have any questions? You want to talk about anything about community, in particular students? We could talk about anything. If you have any questions about anything that you feel is important, because your generation has a lot on it. There's a lot on you to succeed. Not in ways of really being rich. Success cannot be determined by the amount of money you get. Success is determined by how much knowledge you ascertain and how you apply it to the world.
Is there any music students in here?
Music?
Yeah, I see you right there.
Yeah, what do you play?
I play drums and piano.
Cool. What do you play?
Drums.
Okay, you play regular drum?
One more over here.
Regular drum? Okay.
One more over here.
You?
No, right there in the red shirt.
Drums, guitar, and piano.
Cool. Well, I play a little piano and I play saxophone and I also play flute and stuff. But to talk about, since we all seem to be drummers here, and since drums is where everything comes from, let me just say a few things about these particular drums that we have here. They're called collectively kungas. This is the quinto, this is the tumba, that's a kunga, and this is another tumba. Quinto is the child, kunga is the father, tumba is the mother. The biggest drum is the mother because it gives birth to the child. The smaller drum is the quinto, and that answers the question. It asks the question that the mother asked, and the father, he's saying, okay, I'm getting everything together, I'm trying to have it, and the kids, I'm, what, ooh, well, everything, and the mother's like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? And so that was kind of how they wrote the history to what it would be. And a lot of our history that came from the drums from slavery came from a rhythm they call rumba, and which came out of Western Africa, out of Nigeria. When they were taking the slaves, a great majority of slaves were taken to Cuba. And when they were in Cuba, they developed to put the history of our people through music rather than to put it in books, because some of the books were burned by Alexander the Great. And they did not want to have nothing. So they put a lot of the history of our people with the rumba dance. And we want to play a little bit of the rumba so you can know what a rumba is. Because the rumba basically, when they did the music, is a dance between a chicken and a rooster. Because the roosters look for a girlfriend. And the hen don't want to be bothered. So they would have their dances where they would be like this. And the rooster would have his dance where he was coming like that. And they put all that together and they came up with the rumba. You know, so we're gonna right now we're gonna do a thing of rumba to show you kind of the thing. So the way they would do the dance, we kind of demonstrate this a little bit. So if the ladies was the hens, and they would have the dance where they would be like that. Then the rooster, they would be coming like that. And if the man could get his foot between the lady's foot, he won. Girlfriend. And that's how they would do the dance. And then they would tell the history of the people through the rumba. He's got a question.
Yes.
When did you get into drumming? When did you get into drumming?
Into drumming?
Derf, give him a little history. What I brought today is a legendary drummer. And actually there's been books written by and about this guy right here. The current book that's out on him is a book called Moving On Up.
Yeah, Move On Up.
Curtis Mayfield on the cover.
It's a book about soul music and rhythms and stuff that came out of Chicago, which is my hometown where I was born and raised, and for the different groups that came out. Well, and what was the question?
How did you become a drummer?
Oh, right. Okay.
How long have you been drumming?
Okay. Well, I've been a professional musician for 51 years. But before that, when I was a little, maybe 7, 8 years old, my mother had metal cabinets in the kitchen. And then she didn't have no pots and pans in there, but she had the cabinets, you know. And I would touch the cabinet, whoa! Oh, I started beating on the cabinets, you know. Drove my mother crazy. So my cousin, who was a professional dancer, on my 11th birthday, got me a professional bongos and a cha-cha record. And I always wanted to be a saxophone player. I wasn't thinking about playing drum, I was playing saxophone. But I was beating on the cabinets and stuff, and I had some oatmeal boxes and some grit boxes and some pencils, and I used the eraser, and I would be listening to Max Roach and Art Blakey, and I'd be trying to play what I'm hearing play on the records and everything. I was, kind of out there. So when I got to bongo and the cha-cha record, I memorized everything that the bongos was playing, of these bongos, by the way, and everything on the bongos that they were playing. I learned how to do that, and I memorized everything that they was doing. So after that, I said, oh, I can play this. Mom, I want a saxophone. And she said, we ain't got saxophone money. So I said, okay. And then so I became a drummer like that, and my brother played flute, and when he went to the army and came out the army, he didn't want to play flute no more. So I became a flute player. So from that, so later on in life, when I became an adult, I got a saxophone. So I became known as a flute player, a drummer, a saxophone player.
Can you play something on the flute for us, please?
Sure, I can play something.
Give us something, please, baby.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna guess.
What's the difference in the community between how it is today and how it was in the past? I mean,
Okay, that's a good question.
Let me answer that question, baby, because I'm born in Los Angeles, and I was raised in this village here, and at the height of Africans in Los Angeles, first I'll preface your question with, the state is named after a black woman. You know that, right? The state is named after a black woman. Her name is?
California.
No, close, but not California.
Miss America.
No, close, but not. The name of the state was, of the woman who this state is named after, is Khalifa.
Khalifa, yes.
And Khalifa was a African warrioress. And she had a community of women that ran the state of California from Baja all the way to San Francisco. These powerful black women. They were so powerful that they were so fierce in war that no one wanted to combat them or fight them. Consequently, the state is named after her, Khalifa, California. They named the state after her.
That's true.
Not only that, there's 4 major cities in California that were founded by African people. San Diego, Los Angeles, San Jose, and San Francisco. All of those major cities were founded by African people. So Los Angeles, which was founded by African people, when I was growing up, there were 1 million people, African descent, in Los Angeles.
Yeah, Biddy Mason.
Biddy Mason, she was an African woman who was a slave. Right. She walked behind a mule train from Salt Lake City to America. Over 800 miles she walked in Campbell dung to come here. But she eventually became a rich lady. She bought up a lot of real estate downtown, with no education, bought up a lot of real estate downtown. And she built the first church, first AME church. That's Biddy Mason. She's a very powerful entity and a very powerful historical figure for you to study. But that being said, there's 1 million people in Los Angeles. So at the height of the million African Americans that was living in Los Angeles, in 1976 they had a concert here. And at the concert, it was at the Coliseum, it was 100,000 black people that filled up that Coliseum. We had a black mayor, which was Tom Bradley. Isaac Hayes was just almost, he was so big it was ridiculous. He came out in slave chains. You can go YouTube the concert, watch that. and you will see him coming out. He dubbed himself Black Moses. So this was a very powerful and prolific time. I grew up in the period of the Black Panther movement, where you had a organization that was trying to feed and educate black people about their rights and bringing order to the community. So it was a very powerful time. But since that very powerful time, we've had drugs and violence introduced into the community to destabilize that black power. You understand? The power was getting too great, and the voting bloc was getting too great. Because you had 1 million black people in Los Angeles, communities that were black from downtown all the way to Compton, full of nothing but African American families. 1 million people of African heritage lived in Los Angeles. So, through violence, drugs in the community, black people started moving out. Then we had what's going on now, which is gentrification or gentricide. So I've seen a dramatic change in the community. I think now it's around 400,000 is the number of African Americans in the community.
Well, yeah, but to answer the brother's question, the brother's question was what was the difference of what's going on now as opposed to what was happening, I guess, musically back in the day.
Okay.
Okay, what happened was, first of all, in 1901, it was a guy by the name of Baby Dodge. And Baby Dodge invented what they call as a contraption set and later on drums.
That's
He, at one particular time, near the end of the 1900s, there was no such thing as drums. They didn't use drums at all because it wasn't, you know, and to this day, drums are still outlawed in the Constitution of the United States, but they have not just enforced that down, but it was outlawed. So from that particular point, the only drums you could have was a snare drum or a tom-tom drum, which they claimed from the native Indian people, and then you had a bass drum for a marching drum, and you had a cymbal, which you could play a cymbal like that. Baby Dodge took a foot pedal and put it at his foot to play the bass drum with his one foot, created another bass pattern with his foot, and made the sock cymbal, took the snare drum and took the tom-tom and took some timbre block and played them like that. And when they saw that, they said, what kind of contraption is that? That's why it was called trap drums. So from that particular point was when the music took excavated from what they would be calling ragtime music that was coming out with Scott Joplin, and they would call that ragtime because it was ragtime, because it wasn't a straight meter thing. You know, so from him coming up with Baby Dodge coming up with then the horn players went big then they did that, and when they did that, they called that jungle music. And then from jungle music till they saw that whites was trying to play it. And when they saw that whites was trying to play it, then they called it Dixieland. And so it became Dixieland music. And so that they wasn't going to identify that this music came from the brothers who came up with this music. And then they started to call it jazz, which meant in the first place, excuse my French, jive ass. Then it went to be fast. You know, and they were spelling it J-A-S-S. Then later on, it got to be too much drama, so they changed it to J-A-Z-Z. And then they claimed that Paul Whiteman was the king of jazz. And then Benny Goodman, the king of swing. So everything that we've come up with, someone has come and labeled and said, this is this. But it's all music that comes from our psyche and our brains and our experiences as people with what we do, and we come up with what's going on. Nowadays, when they came out with what was called bebop music in the 40s, that came to be because it was a ban on music through the Musicians Union. So you couldn't go in the studio and record. And at that particular time, they came up with the hydrogen bomb, and they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and everything was fast. So from that particular vibe, they came up with playing everything fast. And then they called that bebop. So no matter what would come up with, they got a title to say what it is.
That Africans invented.
And so as they go down into the 50s, Alan Freed, early they were calling it race music. If you was black and you made a record, that was a race music. If you white and you made a record, it was race music. And they wasn't going to play both of them on the same radio stations at all. Until Chuck Berry came out doing what he was doing, duck walking and everything. So from that particular time, along with Fats Waller and everything, they went to Alan Freed, and Alan Freed didn't want to call it rhythm and blues because before that was a musician by the name of Jordan. What was his first name? Louis Jordan. He came up with what was called rhythm and blues. And so they couldn't say, this is rhythm and blues music, and you got a bunch of Caucasians playing because everybody know, oh, that ain't rhythm and blues music. So Alan Freed said, this is rock and roll. So then when he said it's rock and roll, then he put it in the movie, The Girl Can't Help It, and then from that, rock and roll became the thing, and not the music that we had come out with in the first place. So that was that, and then after that, when they went to getting to Elvis Presley, and Elvis Presley was doing what he was doing, he was the king of rock and roll, but he lost his popularity. And when he lost his popularity, in 1964, the #1 record in the United States was Louis Armstrong singing, "Hello, darling, this is Louis. Darling, it's so nice to have you back where you belong." That was the #1 record. The #2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 record was all Motown. So they said, we couldn't have that. We can't have that. So they had nobody who could do anything. So they went and got the Beatles from London, had them get haircuts like bangs, because at first, the Beatles haircuts was not like that, because I'm going to tell you a little bit of history. The first Beatles record was on a black label called VJ Records in Chicago. And then later on, their managers was Chess, from the Chess brothers, who had Chess Records, who had Hollywood and Muddy Waters and all those guys. Then they had, hey, y'all, wear your hand bang, and they came back singing Muddy Waters and Hollywood song. #1 group in the world. And then when they stopped the television. I remember being a kid watching it. When they brought the Beatles to the airport, they stopped the television. They said, here come the Beatles to the airport. 1 million people at LaGuardia Airport. They're coming off the plane. After coming off the plane, the announcers got up there and went up to John Lennon and said, who do you listen to? He said, Marvin Gaye, Ray Charles, James Brown. And the guy said, who are they? You dig? Because that's how far the United States thing is behind the whole music scene. Because they got all this stuff listening to what they was having to hear. And the people here was not having that. You know, they was talking to Elvis Presley and the Beatles and Donovan, you know, and Paul Revere and the Raiders and that kind of stuff. So that was the thing. So we have gone through all kind of things from all different works of life to bring our music still to come through. And then when it came to the electronic age, when disco came to be a thing, that became, because of the movie Saturday Night Fever, and John Travolta dancing and doing his hand up in the air like that, then disco became the thing, and that was the #1 thing, you know? But we still had what we was doing. So the music, when you say, all music, basic music that comes out of the United States is based on the bass drum. You see the 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. When they had disco, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. When it was funk, but it's all based on the bass drum. All the things come out of the bass drum. When they went to reggae music, they took the bass drum off of 1. Because a lot of American music, the bass drum is 1. But when they went to reggae music, it would be 1. And that's called a 1 drop. And that kind of kicked in the style of the reggae music. So to answer that question, we are always going to the next level. We're not staying in one place. The ones who stay in one place is the ones that say, this is what I'm about and this is what I'm going to be. But it's always going to be somebody say, well, I hear that, but what about this? And what if we could do this? And what if I could try to do that? That's the attitude we have to have. Like we know what's been done before us, we try to be like that, but you want to get all that we can from that and then take that and go somewhere with that. That's what we want to be about, you know, musically. So it's changed. Like right now, it's not heavy guitar laden like it was in the 70s with hard rock and all that. And even when they do rock and roll music and hard rock, that's still the blues, just with a faster tempo. And we came up with that. And that's what it is. So we are the people that come up with, no matter what, it's us. Now, on that note, I'm going to take a little flute here. I'm going to play.
The bandstand.
This is a song written by Charlie Parker, one of the greatest musicians, and it's called Reklaw. And he was one of the people started that music that they call bebop, and that was really a basic 12-bar blues, which is the music that we came up with in the first place. So let me turn it back over to
the bebop, the bandstand.
The bebop,
the bandstand.
Salute to the band box?
Salute to the band box. But you let the youth hear the salute to the band box.
Well, if we can play it, can we play it up? Like happened in about 1943. Yeah, so. Yeah.
So that was like maybe a 10-minute answer to your question, young man. But he
So,
just
you-
gave
did you
you
get
a
it?
little history of music.
Yeah. Oh, let me say something about beats. So since we all into beats and everybody's into beats, let me explain something about beats. You got hip hop beats, right? The very first hip hop beat that it ever was on a Sun Ra record, and the name of the drummer name was Clifford Jarvis, and he played. That was the first hip hop beat, and that was played by Clifford Jarvis on the Sun Ra record. Then from there you had the Motown beat, which with Marvin Gaye had what's going on with and that beat was created by Eddie Bongo Brown out of Detroit. And he came up with that beat, reversing a Brazilian samba beat. And from that changed the whole history from 1970 to what they were getting with that beat of the Marvin Gaye record. And it was like a really important time, because from that, everybody started using these kind of drums on the records because you couldn't get it no other way. And that was a really important time of that for the Motown stuff. You know. So,
Like getting a little musical history.
yeah, so that's kind of what happened with it. You know, just like when you do disco beat, that's disco, but that comes from a beat called mambo. That's called mambo. What we did earlier was a rumbo. That's in Afro-Cuban music, they use what's called a clave. A clave is two wooden sticks that's played. In the Cuban music and some parts of Nigerian music, you have the 3-2 clave, which is everybody's heard that. That's called the 3-2. Then in Cuba, they took the 1 out, so it went like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then in the hard mambo, it went. And that's how they did all the dancing to what it was. In Brazil, it's in Brazil music, which comes from, a lot of it comes from Nigeria and from Angola, they have what's called and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and clave. Beep 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 and that's called samba. When I went to Brazil, I thought I knew how to play samba. I thought, yeah, shoot, I play samba. I'm a drummer. When I went to Brazil, the first time, they had 100 drummers. And they said, 100, I'm like, and they all started together, and they all ended together, and they was all right together. I'd never heard nothing like that else. And I said, oh, nah. And they were saying, this is the real samba. Then I learned that, so when I got back, I said, yeah, I know samba now. I know samba, so all these cats, you know, they said, oh, samba. I said, all right, let's play samba. I said, oh, that ain't it. I know what it is. Because I was down there with them and learned what it was. You know, so a lot of different rhythms have different beats. Like, say everybody's heard of the cha-cha, right? You know. And I'm here to tell you, the cha-cha didn't come from Cuba. Cha-cha come from New York. The brothers in New York did that. When Celia Cruz came to Cuba, and she said, "What is that?" And they said, "That's salsa." She said, "Salsa? That's something you put on some French fries." But that music come out of New York, and that's stuff we did. So we came up with, I'm telling you, we came up with practically everything. But this all disguised as we didn't do anything, because they don't want people to think that we are that great of a people that we can do stuff. It's just like when you talk about the electric light. Hey, that's Lewis Lattimore. But Edison got the credit. But it was Lewis Lattimore who came up with the light bulb.
He was able to keep the carbon filament.
It is so
keeps the
exactly.
light on.
It's just like, you know, they say in some of the history, they say Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin. Well, how could he? Well, he didn't know nothing about what it was about. He wasn't picking cotton. It was the slaves that was down there picking cotton that said, figure out, if we can do this way and do this way, we probably ain't got to work that hard.
That's right.
And so he gets the credit for inventing that. So that's how things go. And like, I'm going to tell you this is the last thing I'm going to say. I'll get to talking. But I'm going to say this one thing, but this really ain't got nothing to do with no music. But I remember, everybody's heard of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, right? Okay. Before Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, you know, he lived in New York, and his name was Lou Alcindor.
Yes.
And he went to UCLA, and he was dunking on everybody. He was blocking everybody's shot. So then they said, we got to do something. So they outlawed dunking in college basketball because of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was Lou Alcindor. So you couldn't dunk. So because he couldn't dunk, he came up with the sky hook. And when he came up with the sky hook, nobody could block it. All they could do was to hope he missed. And for him doing that, here's how he became super duper famous when he went to be in professional sports, because that later on, when he graduated from UCLA, then here come, what's his name? The announcer that was Portland. The guy that took Lou Alcindor.
Chuck Hearns?
Huh?
Chuck Hearns?
No, the basketball player. His son was the manager, was the coach of the Lakers for a while.
Oh, you talking about
Luke Walton, Bob?
Yeah,
Bill
Walton. Right. Bill Walton went to UCLA the year after Lou Alcindor graduated, and Bill Walton could dunk. And when he could dunk, I said, "Oh, dunking is legal now." And so then at that particular point, dunking became legal in college basketball. But it was illegal because Lou Alcindor, who later on became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, was dunking on everybody. They won, about 7 or 8 college championships in a row. You know, he was that good. So when my man Walton was able to dunk, they said, it's okay, you can dunk now. But while Alcindor was, you couldn't dunk. But I'm saying, but we are so resourceful of a people that even though they stopped him from dunking, he came up with something else that they couldn't stop. And that's how we have to be. No matter what it is, we can come up with something that ain't nobody came up with that we can do that will propel us into greatness. And that's kind of, that's kind of like
very
what
important.
That I
And
kind
that's
of
a very important keynote to remember.
Yeah.
What Derf was sharing with you. Because as we know, Derf said that these drums here were outlawed. We could not play these here in this country. The English were very stiff-necked fools. And they would not allow us to participate in our culture and play these drums. So what the Africans did, they made a 6-string guitar. They made a banjo. And it was able to create other instrumentations to adapt to the environment here, because they were not allowed to play their drums.
That's right.
Which we know drums are in every country on the face of the earth. See, we are seed people. What do I mean when I say we are seed people? What do I mean when I say, what do I mean?
You said seed?
No.
Seed.
Seed people. S-E-E-D. We are seed people. What does that mean?
We plant seeds everywhere. Like we do a lot.
You kind of right. You kind of right.
I was gonna say we started a lot of things.
Yeah.
The oldest human remains on the planet were found in the Olduvai Gorge in Lake Tana, Ethiopia. The first humans on earth were African. We know that now. And we know that there's only one mother and one father for all of humanity. There's not like a white mother and a brown mother and a yellow mother for, no, there's only one mother for all of humanity. And she is out of Africa. And we are her children. And she is on every continent on the earth. Because at one time on this planet, it was only African people. But when we migrated out, we went to every place on this earth and we left our mark. We left our stamp in China, in India, in Southeast Asia.
Even in Mexico with the
Mexico, in America, everywhere.
The
The Africans left their stamp.
We've been there. We are the original people, and we are still here.
That's what
So
I'm
we
saying.
need to understand that we are about that, and we have put ourselves on a positive way, you know, so that you can be out of dignity and pride of who you are, you know, because it's important to show that example to your friends and everybody else to know that, you know, I'm about something.
There's
You
not
know?
many youth is going to be able to say, what school did you go to? I went to Marcus Garvey. Not a lot of youth can say that. And it's going to be important years from now, as you get older, when you can say, what school did you go to? I went to Marcus Garvey. Well, they taught me something different. They didn't teach me, they didn't give me a generic education.
Do you know it's a Marcus Garvey song? Oh, it was called Garvey's Ghost.
Yes.
Written by Max Roach on one of the albums. With
We're going to leave you with the future belongs to you. See this white beard? This is yesterday. I'm history. My story is over. Tomorrow is a mystery. Nobody can tell you tomorrow. Not one person in this room going to tell you what's happening tomorrow. But today, right now, this moment, in this present that we just shared, it was a gift to be able to share with you. And you can get musical history from Derf and get knowledge and understand where you are in this struggle. But it is knowledge that will free you, because knowledge is power, and you can't buy it. Because you see, right now, certain parents try to buy education for their children in these elite colleges so they can get an advantage, because they know that there's power in knowledge. That's why they try to keep it from us. That's why they have what is known as stolen legacy. Everything you did, they took it and they hid it away in the Vatican, in England, in France, in Spain, in Portugal, in Dutch land. They took all of our stories and they stashed them away. So you can't know your greatness. But here we are, 21 generations now deep here. And you are compelled to excellence and greatness. And I know there's greatness in this room. I already feel it. I know that years from now, you're going to do something that's going to make a difference. And it ain't about money. Money, you can't take money with you. Live clean and let your works be seen. You live by your works. Good name is better than silver and gold. So, you study hard. You study beyond hard. You study beyond what you can imagine so that you can accomplish what you will. Greatness belongs to you. You are destined for it. Each and every one of us knows that. Because we are the seed people. All humanity comes from our people. All humanity. We gave them the arts, the sciences. We gave them astronomy. We gave them the calendar. We gave them so many things that they will not give us credit for. Study this word right here that I'm finna give you, which is called cognitive dissonance. Go look that word up and try to understand what cognitive dissonance is. It's when somebody really do something wrong to you, but they can't accept in their mind that they did something wrong to you, so they make up all kinds of things to make themselves feel well. So they don't have to accept the reality of what they've done to you. 250 years of free labor. 100 years of violence, the Ku Klux Klan and all of that. Then another, 100 years of just straight drugs and miseducation and violence in our community to keep us disabled, to keep us distable, to keep us off balance. So people leave here. They leave our little city that we founded here in Los Angeles because things are getting very dreadful. But it's up to you because you represent tomorrow. You are the future. And I feel change in this room. And I know that the powers are in this room to make change. This is Derf Reklaw. I'm JJ Kabasi. So we have any questions before we go? Is there anything you'd like to know before me and Derf leave here? Do you have any questions about your great future?
How did you guys meet?
How did you guys meet?
Derf Reklaw is a legend. His name precedes himself. Once you get a little older, you study music, you'll understand that Chicago was like a hub for black music. When Africans ran out of the South because of slavery, and slavery was over and they had to leave to find freedom and what they thought was be a better standard of living for their children, they left out of the South. They went to Detroit, they went to Chicago, they came to California, they went to the Northeast. They got out of the South. But Chicago became a great hub of music.
Yes, in my case, the neighborhood I lived in, you had Sam Cooke, Quincy Jones, Lou Rawls, Herbie Hancock, Muddy Waters. They were all in the same neighborhood. I mean, I saw them like every day. Sam Cooke and his brother LC and them, they would be on the street corner singing. Lou Rawls would be with them. They had a gospel group called the Soul Story. Lou Rawls' uncle was Louis D. Rawls, who was a pastor on 41st Street and had his own church. I had the good fortune of being my next door neighbor was Sonny Land Slim, who was playing with Holly Wolf and Muddy Waters, and they would be at the house every day drinking. I'm like 4 years old, so I'm listening to the music and they drinking. I'm standing at the door and they say, "Hey boy, here, have a drink." I'm 4 years old. I do, look, I'm drunk. I'm going home. They said, said, "But don't tell your daddy, because he'll beat up everybody." So it became that kind of stuff. And Muddy Waters was playing in the building I was living in. So I saw all this music. It was a place, they made a movie out of it called Cadillac Records. And in the movie, Cadillac Records, that was one of the record companies, and it was on a street called Michigan. And it was called Record Row because you had Brunswick Records, Decca Records, OK Records, Chess Records, VJ Records, Constellation Records, all in a row. Mercury Records, and so I used to go down, and it was a few blocks from where I lived. I would walk down and say, "Whoa, oh man, I'm gonna be in here one day. I know I'm in here one day." I had that dream, I managed to be there, and then when I saw these guys playing and singing, doing what it was, that was for me. And because my father played briefly with Ray Nance, who was the trumpet player in the Duke Ellington band, and way back in the day, when bands like Duke Ellington and them, they couldn't even get a hotel. Duke Ellington they would rent out boxcars in the train station, and they would have to stay there at the train station. But because my father knew Ray Nance and everything, she would invite the whole band over and cook a dinner for them. And Johnny Hodges and Duke Ellington, all of them would come by, and I would be, "Hey," and they would hold me and stuff. So it was like, for me, that was it. For me, being a musician was the greatest thing for me that I wanted to be, because I thought that I could really express myself if I wasn't going to be Humphrey Bogart. That I could express myself as a musician. So that was kind of like how I came to be like that. And I was fortunate to be around some really great people, and I listened to what they were saying, and they showed me a lot of stuff. When I was 14, I was in the band with Sonny Stitt, and I mean, like, I'm the youngest guy in the band. These are old guys and everything, and I'm like, I went and told my brother, he didn't even believe me. He said, "Oh man, come on, quit lying." I said, "Okay." But it was like that. But if you have a desire to do something, and you really feel that, go and do it. You got to bring that to life. Because if you don't bring it to life, it might never come unless somebody's really showing you something about it. But if you really believe it, and you really believe that you can make a difference, and you can, go for it. And that's how I kind of became a musician. And I love it. I mean, I may not have millions, but I'm happy because I have accomplished some things. I'm on a couple hundred records and been in 21 countries. There's a book out now. It's a book out now. You talked about it briefly.
Moving on up.
It's called Move On Up with Curtis Mayfield on the cover. They talk about me in the book on a couple of pages because I made a dance when I was 16 years old called the Woodbine Twine, and it was a phenomenal dance thing. I don't really want to demonstrate it because it's kind of strenuous, but anyway, I made that dance, and out of that dance, that's where, except for pop blocking, windmilling, and the Running Man dance, all the other dances come out that Woodbine Twine dance. It's like a friend of mine who was a doctor who videotaped us when I was 16. He said he still got the video, and that's proof of that I made the dance.
Come on, man, they don't know what the twine time is. Man, you got to show them a move of the twine time. This was a national dance.
But it was on Ed Sullivan and American Band. So many records. But all right, if you can give me a groove, a little bit of groove.
Let's see what we talk about.
No, that ain't it. All right, listen. Come on. This is 4. Here's a couple of steps on the twine dance that I made when I was a teenager. Oh man. I was stupid. I was doing stupid stuff. But anyway,
I'm just saying.
a lot of those dances came out of that.
There's a lot of dances that came out of there.
Yeah.
I'm the first one to say.
A lot of them came out of
I
that.
recognize a whole lot of that. No doubt.
And when I made it, I wasn't trying to make a dance.
Yeah.
The girls wouldn't dance with me. And then my jam came on, so I just started dancing. So they were saying, what kind of dance is that? And I was
Woodbine twine.
because I saw the word woodbine in English book, and I said, oh, that's a cool word. And I saw the word twine, oh, that's a cool word. Woodbine twine. So if I'm going somewhere, they say, where you going? I'm going to Woodbine twine. What do you mean? I've been to Woodbine twine. So when they saw me doing that dance, they said, what dance that? That's Woodbine twine. Took me to jail. They took me to jail. Because we were some dancing fools. They took us to jail because we took all the girlfriends.
How old are you now, Derf?
I'm 72 years old.
Okay, so that's a lot of history right there. All right, Derf Reklaw. Yeah.
All right.
72 is a lot of years.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, thank y'all for having us. We love the Honorable Marcus Scott. We love the Honorable Marcus Scott.
All right.
We love the Honorable Marcus Scott. Yeah. You know.
All right.
So just remember what Marcus told you. School you named after. Up ye mighty race.
You can accomplish what you will. That's
Remember
right.
that. And you
What are you looking for?
work hard, yeah?
Oh. It may be that counter thing was on the floor. That counter on top. Brother Jay, Mama Jay, this is our principal, Sister Saunders.
Hey,
As
Sister
you know,
Saunders.
Brother, how are you?
How you doing? I'm glad to be in this house
Thank
today.
you for coming. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
man, I so enjoyed
Brother,
it. I
how are
gotta
you?
tell
Oh, how you doing?
legendary drummer as well.
Yeah, I so enjoyed it. Yeah. I hope the kids got something. I hope they enjoyed it.
I hope they did.
You going? Okay, tell your dad if you see me. And tell him to call me, okay?
Okay.